Hello, my name is Kristen Bolden and I'd like to welcome you to The Other Side of History. Now in this video we're going to do a musical and we're going to talk on Claude Debussy. And I'd like to play a couple songs of his for you. So Claude Debussy, he was born in 1862 in the picturesque old residential town of French royalty. Saint-Cyr-Mont-Allais, and it's only a few miles from Paris. Debussy's parents were unaware that their young son had musical ability, and they thought that he should join the Navy because it was a respectable and secure occupation. However, Debussy, he was interested in the piano. And at the age of 9, Debussy's father grudgingly gave him piano lessons. With the help of a family friend, Debussy's parents finally changed their minds and they allowed Debussy to go to the Paris Conservatory. He was only 11 when he was accepted as a student there. Debussy, he won prizes in piano. But his efforts in harmony and music theory, it met with failure. Debussy was known as a musical rebel. He did not believe in the unmusical rules of the music theory that was at that time. He purposely looked for new chords and new kinds of melodies. His conservatory teachers, they were irritated with his dissonant harmonies and unusual chord progressions. Many of his fellow students also thought that he went too far with originality. He adopted non-traditional scales and tonal structures. His melodies are not the phrase-long melodies that's found in classical music, nor does he repeat or develop short motives as did the Romantic composers. He used short melodic fragments, which he fits together like pieces of stained glass. He loved the exotic sounds that are found in the music of Japan, where the long-held tones of gongs were heard, shimmering as though with many different parts of the same sound. He once said, "The music is not in the notes, but in the silence between them." End quote. Debussy used the old medieval scales or modes and the pentatonic or the black keys and whole tone scales. He added notes to triads so that the triad sounded blurred and would blend two chords together to make a new chord. Blending harmonies to create such a tonal effect was at this time considered too dissonant to be pleasing by many. While a student, Debussy, he engaged in a continuous battle against rules for the sake of rules. While taking a brief vacation from his musical studies, Debussy, he visited Russia. There he worked as a sort of parlor pianist and also music teacher. One of his students' mother described Debussy in this way: "The young man plays well. His technique is brilliant, but he lacks any personal expression. He is yet young, says he is 20, but looks 16. End quote. When Debussy resumed his studies at the conservatory, he won a prize for improvisation. Debussy is considered the founder and leading exponent of musical Impressionism. Impressionism started in the late 19th century through to the early 20th century. It was a French style of composition where subtle impressions are created by the use of colorful instrumentation and unusual harmonies. Impressionist painters had also become a thing in Paris, and Debussy, he joined forces with certain poets and Impressionist painters, such as Monet, to advance new techniques in the arts. Debussy was an aristocrat and disliked anything commonplace or routine. He did not also want popularity. He once said that he had a horror of becoming a popular composer. Yet he was always happy when his work pleased his sophisticated friends. I do not like all of the music of Debussy, but he did compose some that were real gems. Now, one of these gems, I believe, is Clair de Lune, which means moonlight. It's one of the most celebrated melodies in French music. So at this time, I would like to play for you this beautiful piece of Claude Debussy's.
Debussy's work was controversial, and it made many a grey head wag. However, it could not be denied that the work had been created by an original and well-equipped composer. Debussy's orchestral suite, and it was called Printemps, and it was denounced, and the performance, it was refused. After this, the war was really on, and it lasted some 30 years. Some claim that some of his music violated every canon of accepted form and harmony and was simply not music. Others hailed him as a pioneer and a trailblazer. When Debussy's La Mer was first performed, concertgoers, they let it go by without too much to do. This was probably because of the uninspired interpretation of the work which the conductor gave. However, when Debussy directed the work himself, there was much interest. His friends applauded loud and long, and the anti-Debusyites gave catcalls and hisses. This went on for a quarter of an hour, with bravos mingled with abuses. Order was finally restored, and a song by Bach was played. Then, suddenly, the din of noise began again from the audience. The noise and fury was so bad that the violinist was forced to stop playing. However, the next time that Debussy conducted his La Mer, it was successful and with no offensive noise from the audience. Debussy was critical of others performing his works. He wrote to his publisher of a concert that was done in Budapest of his work. They could not play the sea no more than nocturnes from want of rehearsal, he said. I was assured that the orchestra knew the sea, for it had been played through 3 times. Ah, my friend, if you had heard it. Don't forget that these players understood me only through an interpreter, a sort of doctor of law, who perhaps transmitted my thought, only deforming it. I tried every means. I sang, gave the gestures of pantomime, Italian pantomime, etc. It was enough to touch the heart of a buffalo, end quote. Debussy was a pianist and wrote much for the piano. He was also a poet and wrote words for several of his songs. Some of his etudes are among the most difficult pieces ever written for piano. Debussy himself said, "They terrify your fingers," end quote. At this time, I would like to play for you another of Debussy's pieces, and it's another very beautiful piece. It's called Reverie, and it means to be in a state of being presently lost in one's thoughts, like a daydream. As I play this piece, see what thoughts come to your mind.
Debussy was established as a composer, he married. But this marriage had ended in divorce. Debussy had a complex personality. He was known for a quick temper and would shift between good humor and sullenness. He was prone to depression and melancholy. He was described as unsociable, but charming to those that he liked. Debussy married a second time, and he had a daughter from the second marriage. A number of the great composers were actually shy and sensitive, and they hated to appear in public. Now, Claude Debussy was no exception to this. Debussy was perhaps the most important composer of music, of piano music especially, in the 20th century. Now, Clair de Lune is one of the most recognizable and frequently performed piano pieces in the classical repertoire. It is a true masterpiece with shimmering harmonies and delicate melodies. Debussy, he found much inspiration from Chopin. He once said, "Chopin is the greatest of all, for with the piano alone he discovered everything." Now, Debussy was once dubbed as Claude de France. He died in 1918 in Paris, shortly before the end of World War I. In 1918, he died from cancer. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little musical. I always think it's fun to learn more about who these great composers were from the past. And if you've enjoyed it, I would just encourage you to click on that like and that subscribe button. I want to thank each one of you for listening, and I am wishing you each God's blessings.